All right, here's a quick review of the punctuation rules we need to know for the SAT and ACT. You find this in the grammar editing section, which is section 2 of the SAT and section 1 of the ACT. And in both tests, it's the most popular thing they test grammar-wise. Here we go. Let's look at our first one. Reusing plastic shopping bags helps keep plastic out of landfills. However, not using plastic bags in the first place would be even better. First thing you want to do is look at what's changing in the answer choices. And if you see what's different about these answer choices, a lot of it is the punctuation here. And whenever that is the case, we want to check out what's happening before and after. Specifically, is it a full sentence before, or could it be a full sentence on its own? Let's check it out. Reusing plastic shopping bags helps keep plastic out of landfills. Yeah, seems like something that could be a full sentence on its own. Let's check out afterwards. However, not using plastic bags in the first place would be even better. Yeah, that also could stand alone as its own sentence. And that's why A is actually wrong. C as well. They are what are called comma splices. When you have something that could be a full sentence on its own before, and just a comma in between what could be a full sentence after, that is always wrong. If you have a grammar textbook, it is what's called a comma splice. So we can't do that. How do we fix that? Well, one way we can fix that is with what we see in D, a semicolon. And that's exactly what a singular semicolon does in a sentence. It takes two things that could be full sentences on their own and separates them, but puts them inside of one sentence. So D could be the answer, except we have a little problem. Instead of however, they put but here. Your English teacher might have told you you're not really supposed to start a sentence with and or but or words like that. So this is technically not a full sentence afterwards. D is not our answer. The correct one is B. And why does B work? It has a comma there. Well, it's true. We can use a comma as long as we use certain conjunctions along with that comma. And those are often remembered by the acronym fanboys. And what does fanboy stand for? Well, it is 7 conjunctions: for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. And these 7 conjunctions, along with a comma, in this case, a comma and a but, can separate 2 full sentences inside of one sentence. And that is why B is our correct answer here. All right, moving along, let's look at our next one. The tiny unintelligent ant succeeds because of one very important skill: working well with others. In this next question, we see a different piece of punctuation. We have the colon. With a colon, we also need to see, is there a full sentence before and after? Because a colon always needs something that can stand alone as a full sentence before. Afterwards, it does not, although it could be. It really can be anything afterwards. But that anything is always something that adds to what you just talked about before the colon, like we see here, where they talk about one very important skill, and then after the colon, they tell us what that skill is. It's working well with others. So this is exactly when we use a colon, when there's a full sentence before and then something that adds to what we're talking about that comes right afterwards. That could be a full sentence, could be a list of things, could be one thing. It really can be anything grammatically. So A seems pretty good. B also has something that's used in the same way as a colon. We see that long dash in B, what's called the M dash, because it's the same length as an M. And when you see one of them in a sentence, it's the same as a colon. You'll need what could be a full sentence before, and then something that adds to what you're talking about, but grammatically can be anything afterwards. But it looks like B is not the answer because of that comma. Working well with others, it seems like a weird place to pause, so it's not B here. C, we see that semicolon again, and we don't have something that can be a full sentence afterwards, so it can't be C. And with D, there's nothing, and it seems like we need to pause between these two parts of the sentence. It looks like our best answer here is A. All right, next question. John Daniels, a biomedical engineering professor at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, recently published a paper on the importance of nanotech for cancer research. Here, we see another M dash, but it doesn't seem to be a full sentence before. So I don't think it can be A. But what I do notice here is there seems to be some extra information. A biomedical engineering professor at MIT, you don't really need that in the main part of the sentence. We could have just said John Daniels recently published a paper on the importance of nanotech for cancer research. And when we have extra information in a sentence, there are two ways that we will mainly separate that out. Every once in a while, they actually use two parentheses, but it's pretty uncommon. Typically, it's either two commas to separate that out, or it's two of those M dashes. In this question, we see in the non-underlined part, it's a comma. So that means we'll need a comma to go along with it afterwards. D is going to be our answer. But it could have been A. If instead there was an M dash after John Daniels, then it would go along with that M dash that we see, and A would be the answer. But since it's a comma, we'll need to match it up with the comma, and D will be our answer. And one last question. When farmers implement the latest advances in irrigation, they can lessen the effects of an extended drought. So again, changing punctuation. So let's check out what comes before. When farmers implement the latest advances in irrigation, that doesn't seem like it could be a sentence on its own. And it's really because of just one word, when. If you got rid of when here, now the sentence would be a sentence on its own. Farmers implement the latest advances in irrigation. But when is what makes this something that needs something to come afterwards to complete the thought. And we see lots of words like when that come up. We'll see when, since, after, though, or even though, or although, some version of though, if, because. These are some very common ones that we will see. One other one we see quite often, while. All of these words, if you stick it at the beginning of what would be a full sentence, it is no longer a full sentence. It's dependent on something coming afterwards. And when you have one of these words that starts it off, you'll use a comma in between the two parts of the sentence. And that's what's going on here, because it can't be A. With the when is not a full sentence before, and a semicolon needs that full sentence before and after. With B, we have a comma and an and. Same thing. That's a comma in one of those fanboys. So we need a full sentence before and after. And C, with a colon, needs a full sentence before. So we're left with just D as our correct answer. So there are some main concepts that we'll need to know for the punctuation. Good luck on the SAT and ACT.